Hey guys, Kevin here with eTrailer, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install the Seaflo Battery Disconnect for boats and RVs here on our 2018 Forest River Wildwood X-Lite travel trailer. So our neighbor came to us today saying that he's having issues with his battery being drained whenever he lets his camper sit when it's in storage. So one of the quickest and easiest ways to solve this issue is to place a battery disconnect switch on in between your battery and your trailer. So the Seaflo battery disconnect switch has two ways of mounting, one with the actual base, which we used here, which you'll typically see on your travel trailers. Normally there's not a lot of room inside, so you want to kind of save that for all your storage needs, whereas a fifth wheel, you may have some more space in the wall and you can actually surface mount it and just use this top part right here and shoot 4 screws into a wall if you just have enough space for the posts that are on the inside of our base right here. This is a lot more of a simple design versus some of your other kind of cheaper models of battery disconnect switches. Usually you'll see like that little red key, which can actually pop out, which you can end up losing. So this one, with it being just a simple on-off, you never have to worry about losing that key, or maybe that key not making a good connection inside, because this is always going to stay with the actual system itself and always make a good connection. That way you can ensure that your battery is either disconnected or fully connected. So with this particular switch, it's a very, very simple install. Let me show you how we did that. So one of the first things that I like to do when I'm planning out installing a Seaflo battery disconnect is just kind of looking around on the trailer, seeing exactly where I want to have it placed so that it's easy for our neighbors to actually get in and reach and switch it on and off. And then also what's just gonna work with our wiring. So we've got quite a bit of extra positive wire here running to our battery. So I think I'm gonna be able to, if I place it right here, I can just snip that and connect to our input and our output through our battery disconnect without having to add extra wire. And that'll kind of snug that up more so that it's not hanging down so low. So what we're going to do next is disconnect this wire from our battery, because we don't want any power running through this when we go to cut it. So now I'm going to go ahead and mount our base for our disconnect switch. When I'm doing that, I want to make sure that I have the bottom open, because if any water gets in here, I want to make sure that it can drain out. I don't want it sitting there on one of these side pieces. So inside of your base, there's going to be 4 holes. And we're just going to take a self-tapping screw and push that right through and mount up our base up onto our trailer tongue. So I do want to note that you're not going to have any mounting screws, so like the self-tapping screws that we're using right now. You're not going to have any wires. When you purchase this disconnect switch, it is just the switch itself. It does not come with any of the other stuff to hook it up. So you will want to make sure that you have those kind of materials handy before you go ahead and start mounting this up. So I'm going to go ahead and snip our power wire now. So what I'm doing right now is just cutting back the casing, because we're going to have to go ahead and put a ring terminal on here. You just want to take a sharp utility knife and just run it back and forth. You don't need to cut too hard. You don't want to end up cutting off any of the braided wire inside. But with this gauge wire, it is pretty thick, so you may have to work it around quite a bit. All right, now we can go ahead and get a ring terminal and crimp that on. Since this is a thicker gauge wire, we had to get some thicker gauge terminals just to fit on this. Also, when you're working with thick gauge wire, I like to kind of get it set up, because I know my post connection is going to be like this. I want to get my ring terminal on sideways, so that's going to match up with my disconnect, so I don't have to sit there and fight the wire, because this doesn't want to bend real easy. So we're going to go ahead and we will crimp this down now. So now I'm going to go ahead and take some electrical tape, just seal this up, make sure that we're good to go. We don't want any water getting in there and corroding the wire. And then we can go ahead and crimp on another ring terminal on the other side of that wire that I cut, and do the same thing, crimp it down and put some electrical tape on it so that we can hook it up to our battery disconnect posts. So when you're looking at your disconnect, the off is going to be facing up and your on is going to be facing to the right. So when you flip that over, your input will be on the right side and your output will be on your left side. I already loosened up these nuts here. We're going to take them off and slide on our output and our input. And I still have this disconnected from the battery. I don't want to take any chances at catching a little shock. And as I'm putting this on, I also want to have these both facing the right way because they're going to need to go facing down. Now with our connections made, we can go ahead and snap this back into our base. If you look at the back here, it's got these 4 little teeth. They're going to kind of clip into the 4 bases in the corners right here. You have to fight it just a bit just because of the size of the cable that we have used on here. But if you get those all lined up, it should snap in pretty easy. And then we can hook up our wire back up to our positive post on our battery. And then we can go ahead and test out our battery disconnect. So with our battery disconnect switch in the on position, I'm going to show you it working. We are tracing our output wire up to this circuit right here. I'm going to go ahead and touch it with my tester, and it's lighting up, displaying that it has power going to it. Now I'm going to flip the battery disconnect into the off position, and as you can see, the light went out, showing you that there's no power leaving past our disconnect switch, which means that it's actually doing its job here. Well, I think that about does it for today's installation of the Seaflo battery disconnect switch for boats and RVs here on our 2018 Forest River Wildwood X-Lite travel trailer. My name's Kevin. Thanks for watching.